All right, I want to talk about something that most of us do, but very few of us actually understand what we're doing and how it works. Have you ever missed a workout? Have you ever missed your macros? Have you ever missed a training day you know you shouldn't have? And instead of just moving on, your brain grabs onto it, you replay it, you think about what you should have done, what you could have done, and suddenly that one missed day becomes a story about who you are. That's not weakness, that's not laziness, that's actually something called rumination. And this entire episode is about one thing: why we dwell on the past. Not how to fix it, not how to break it, just understanding what it is, because once you understand it, a lot of that shame will actually disappear. So let's define it clearly. Rumination is when your mind gets stuck replaying the same thoughts, usually about the past, over and over again, without resolution and without a movement forward. It feels like reflection, but it doesn't lead anywhere. Reflection leads to learning, rumination leads to looping. So it's just a cycle over and over again. Here's a simple example. You miss a training day, life happened, you weren't lazy, you didn't quit, you just happened to miss one. But instead of saying, all right, I'll get back to it tomorrow, your mind goes, I always do this. I had a moment and I ruined it. I had all that momentum and now it's gone. What if this sets me back? I should have just gone. And now you're not thinking about today's workout anymore. You're stuck in yesterday's workout. Now, another example, I'm going to tie it into sports because I love sports. Every athlete knows this. You miss a shot, you make a bad pass, you make a bad one wrong move in a play, and once you do that, two options. You can either move on, focus on the next one, or you can get stuck and stay stuck on that mistake you made. Now, instead of just missing one shot, you miss the next five. Instead of missing one pass, you miss the next 10 passes. The best athletes aren't the ones who never mess up. The best athletes are the ones that move on fast. Most of us were trained physically, but not mentally. So in life, when mistakes happen, we replay them instead of resetting. That's rumination. And here's the key. Rumination feels productive, but it's not. Now, let's go a little bit deeper. Why do we actually dwell on the past? Here's an angle that most people don't talk about, and it's identity. A lot of the time, we don't dwell on the past because it was bad. We dwell because it meant something about who we are now or who we were. Sometimes we replay mistakes, but a lot of the time, it's about the success. We replay the success over and over again. Maybe it was a season where you were in shape, or it was a year that you felt confident, or you did something great and got a promotion at work, or you had a goal and you hit that goal. The version that we imagine ourselves in when we're looking back is a version that maybe felt capable and clear. Or once we do something, that version of ourselves becomes our next benchmark. And instead of moving and building off of that, we get stuck on today and stuck on yesterday. So today probably feels off. The progress is going to feel slow. And instead of just building and moving forward, we keep going backwards in those moments in our minds. Here's another powerful example. Almost all the astronauts who went to the moon struggled super bad after they got home. What's bigger than going to the moon? They had done something no human had ever done before. They had literally set goals that were out of this world. They walked on the moon, and when they got back, almost every single one of them struggled with depression, addiction, anxiety, and they had a total loss of direction. And that's not because they weren't smart or weren't capable. It's because they had set their previous goals and done something literally no one else had ever done. That after that, what's the next goal that's going to beat moonwalking? There's nothing that's going to beat walking on the moon. So if someone like that, like the astronauts, can do something that big and still fall into this trap of rumination and lead to these other problems, why would any of us be immune to that? It's not because the past was perfect, and it's probably because we think the past gives us clarity, and that's why we dwell on it. And when the future feels uncertain, the past is what feels the most safe to us because we understand what happened, and we have time to think and concentrate and really focus on what we could have done maybe different or what we did right in that situation. So I'm not just talking about everybody else. I have lived this in my own life. After my 5 knee surgeries, there was a period where I genuinely didn't know what to do anymore. I didn't know what direction made sense. Should I keep playing soccer and risk another injury? Because all 5 of my surgeries came from soccer. It was, should I keep playing? Maybe I should coach. Or maybe instead of coaching, I can go play for fun and focus on something else. Maybe I should shut it out completely. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what path I was supposed to take. And it was really hard not to live in the past with that whole situation, because in my own mind, I was on top of the world before this happened, and now one thing led to another, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And so why wouldn't I just look at the things I had achieved and the things that I had done and use that to define who I am? But I overthought it, and I tried to lean on who I used to be because the future felt so unclear, and the past did feel familiar to me, even the parts that hurt. And that's the trap. The past doesn't pull us back, it comforts us. So now I want to slow down and really explain what's happening under the hood inside that brain, because once you understand this, and once I understood this, a lot of that self-blame actually disappeared. So there's a psychologist named Susan Nolan Hoxema who spent years studying rumination. And what she found was simple but really powerful. Rumination isn't just thinking a lot. It's repeatedly focusing on why something happens, what it means to you, and what the consequences might be. Without taking action, you're not solving the problem, you're circling it. Her research showed that people who ruminate more don't gain clarity faster. I'm going to say that again. Her research showed that people who ruminate more don't gain clarity faster. They don't make better decisions. They experience higher anxiety, higher depression, and more emotional exhaustion over periods of time. And here's the important part. Rumination does feel responsible. It feels analytical, and it feels like you're trying to learn from what happened. But your brain is asking the same question with the same information over and over and over again. There's nothing new that's going into it. There's no new decision, and there's no new direction. That's why it becomes a loop, is you're just repeating the same thing constantly in your brain. You miss a workout, and instead of asking what's the next best step, your brain asks, why do I always do this? What does this say about me? Or what if I'm falling off? Those questions don't move you forward. They deepen the emotional weight, and that's why people get so tired from overthinking. It's not mental weakness, it's mental overuse. Now let's talk about the body. There's a concept in psychology called perseverative cognition. This refers to the brain's tendency to replay past stressors or anticipate future ones, even when there's no immediate threat. Here's the idea. Your brain thinks it's helping you. On a survival level, it believes, if I keep replaying this, I'll be prepared next time. So when you replay a mistake, a missed opportunity, or a bad decision, your nervous system reacts as if it's happening right now. Your heart rate increases, stress hormones rise, and your body shifts into alert mode, even though you're just sitting there. Your body does not distinguish between real danger and remembered danger. So you stay activated. And this is why people say, I didn't even do anything today and I'm exhausted. I don't understand why. You did do something today. You fought yesterday in your head all day long, and that's exhausting. This is why rumination gets worse at night. There's no movement, there's no distractions, just replay over and over and over again. That's why we always struggle, at least me personally, I always struggle with not having things to do at night because it allows me to fall into this trap. So I try to find things to do until it's literally my body's about to knock out. This third piece kind of ties everything together. Research on nostalgia shows that when people long for the past, they're rarely missing specific events. They're missing who they were, their confidence, their certainty, and their sense of direction. The past feels safe because it's already defined. You knew who you were there. The present asks questions. The future demands belief. And the past just exists. That's why people dwell on peaks as much as failures. The season they were in shape, the year life felt simple, and the version of themselves that felt capable. And what that version becomes is the measuring stick. Today always feels like you're behind, even if you're growing, because you're comparing yourself to where you were here, when maybe you're right here. It's kind of crazy. There's another study that was done on athletes and torn ACLs. And what they found was that athletes that tore their ACL and were scared and nervous to get back out and play were between 30 and 40% more likely to go out and tear that same ACL or get another injury because of it. And that's because those athletes were putting their body through the same injury they had previously done over and over in their mind again. And their body, even though their mind thought it was helping, their body didn't know how to react to that. And it's crazy that, like, they literally found that, like, 1 in every 4 people got hurt again doing the same stuff just because they were thinking about the idea of getting hurt, which is, it's crazy. It's crazy that the body can do that. So there's a book called Bittersweet by Susan Cain, and she talks about longing not as weakness but as a human response to transition. She explains that when people dwell on the past, it often means they're between identities. You're no longer who you were, but you're not yet anchored in who you're becoming. And the brain hates that gap. It can't stand that gap. So it fills the uncertainty with those memories. But Cain makes an important distinction. Looking back can help us process meaning, but living back prevents growth. Bittersweet emotions aren't problems to eliminate, they're signals. Signals that something is ending and something new maybe hasn't fully formed yet. And that's why massive achievements can feel empty afterwards, not because they weren't meaningful, but because they were final, and meaning needs motion. How many of us, after a season, soccer season is in the fall and kind of the spring, but after a soccer season, we worked so hard, worked our butts off, got to end of season, postseason, maybe we won a championship, maybe our team went to a tournament, maybe you won the tournament, and you're just so ready for the next thing, because you want to get to that championship. You want to get to that next game, that once that last game hits, all of a sudden it's, well, crap, what do I do now? And then we start thinking back to how fun it was and how much we want to do that again. And we can go back and forth and back and forth. And I'm sure that's what the astronauts did. They were so focused on the goal of making it to the moon and walking on the moon that build up for however many years and months and minutes and seconds, they were working towards that one specific goal that was higher than any other goal that anybody else had ever done. That once they got up to space, they were probably thinking about what's next. Okay, now we've got to land. Okay, to land we need to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, we've landed. Now it's time to walk on the moon. And then once they hit the moon, it's okay, we need to plant the flag. We need to take pictures. We need to get samples. We need to do this, this, and this. And then pretty soon, I'm sure they all took a moment to really focus on what was actually happening in that moment. But at the same time, they had a mission. They had a job to do, and they were doing that. And I'm sure that a lot of those emotions probably didn't really hit them until they got back to Earth and touched down and was done with the big parties and the interviews and the books. They did a lot afterwards as well, all focused on that one goal. So once people had kind of moved on from that, and they had moved on from that, I'm sure it was hard to kind of find what direction they were supposed to go, just because it really is what's bigger than the moon? What can I do next that's even going to compare to that? So when we connect all of this, the research, the brain, the book, the identity, the nostalgia, it becomes very clear. We don't dwell on the past because we're broken. We dwell because the past once gave us clarity, and the present is asking us to redefine ourselves. That's uncomfortable. That's human. So here's the only thing I want you guys to do this week. I don't want you to fix anything. I don't want you to change anything. Every time you catch yourself dwelling on the past, good or bad, write it down. What were you replaying? Was it a high school date? Was it a pay raise at work? Was it a good lift at the gym? Was it missing the gym? Was it a conversation? I do this to myself a lot, especially when it's a conversation that maybe upset me or annoyed me, or even stuff that doesn't even happen. I have strong emotions toward a single person, and I'm just so angry with them that I make up conversations in my head from when I was younger, when this person did this thing to me, that I will literally get so angry and so upset because I'm going through the emotions of this conversation, thinking, what could I say here that would make them mad? Or what could I say here to make my point stand out more? Or what could I have done in this situation that would have allowed me to escape this pain and this sorrow that I still feel? And oftentimes I kind of blank out, and pretty soon I look at the clock and it's been 10, 15, 20 minutes. I literally haven't been doing anything except for sitting there. Or if it's a car ride, I don't even realize that I've been driving the car because I'm so locked in on what if I would have done something different? What if I would have said this? What if I would have stood up for myself here? Or maybe I saw this person getting bullied and I didn't do something. What if I would have done something? Could that have changed maybe that person's whole life? And oftentimes we can get caught in those moments, and it really does. Like, a lot of the times when someone says they spaced or they blanked out or they kind of just lost focus, it's because of this rumination. They're ruminating on something, whether that's good, whether that's bad. So again, here's the only thing I want you to do this week. Again, we're not going to fix anything. We're not going to change anything. Just write down every time you catch yourself dwelling on something from the past. And also write down what it was, whether it's a mistake, a peak, or maybe a version of yourselves that maybe you miss, or you're annoyed that you even let yourself get to that point. Just notice, because the next episode is going to be all about how we move forward without erasing the past. And remember, the world doesn't need the perfect you. It needs the real you showing up and still fighting.